As we enter into 2024 now, a very significant event has happened that a lot of people have been buzzing and talking about, and that is the passing of Mickey Mouse from privately ironclad copyright into the public domain. You guys may have heard some people talking about this online, whatever, that Mickey Mouse, as of January 1st, that's today, was now entering the public domain. Now, I've seen a lot of people talking about this online and some misinformation going around. So let's talk about the story first. So here's the actual story. This comes to us from the Daily Beast, who sum it up like this. With a new year comes renewed potential for bastardized versions of beloved Disney characters. The House of Mouse's earliest version of Mickey and Minnie Mouse from the 1928 Steamboat Willie cartoon has officially entered the public domain in the US as of January 1st. This means that artists are free to rework those first variants as they see fit without any cost or permissions needed. So basically, the very first appearance of Mickey Mouse in that old 1928 Steamboat Willie is now officially in the public domain. That means you can use it for anything you want. You don't have to pay a royalty. You don't have to get anybody's permission. If you want to make something with that Mickey Mouse from Steamboat Willie, you are more than free to do so. Now, that's all true about it being in the public domain. It's open for everybody to use. Rob, a lot of filmmakers have made films based on public domain works. The works of Shakespeare are public domain. Things like that. But there is an important thing to understand. And I've been seeing some people kind of getting this wrong. Some people think that because Steamboat Willie, with the first appearance of Mickey Mouse, is now in the public domain, that means that you can do anything you want with Mickey Mouse. And that is very important to know is not true. So here's how this is kind of working. There's a big difference between the Steamboat Willie version of Mickey Mouse, which, wait a second, you can see over here, and this, what we now know as the true image of Mickey Mouse. So even though Steamboat Willie and this specific iteration of Mickey Mouse is now public domain, it is only this specific iteration of Mickey that is public domain. Anything that got added to Mickey later is not public domain. So for example, in this image, you see Mickey's not wearing gloves. The traditional now white glove wearing Mickey Mouse, you're not allowed to use that because that is not public domain. This Mickey was just two black dots for eyes. The traditional Mickey we now know as the iconic figure of Disney has the whites and the blacks in his eyes. That is not public domain. Mickey's iconic ha-ha and his voice, that's stuff that came after Steamboat Willie. It's not something you can use. I mean, basically speaking, there's a lot of things about Mickey Mouse as we know him that was not a part of Steamboat Willie that is not public domain. So if you want to make your own animated film starring this character specifically as he's drawn here, you're free to do that. But don't cross any of those other lines. Don't refer to him. And you cannot make it look like your thing is a Disney thing. That's also very important to understand because there are still trademarks. You can't make it look like it's your own thing. There's a couple of really interesting ways this came into play about there are certain things you can use and certain things you can't. Remember, Rob, back in 2013, Disney put out that Wizard of Oz prequel movie called Oz the Great and Powerful. And a lot of people went, wait a minute, Wizard of Oz isn't a Disney film. How are they allowed to do a Wizard of Oz movie? Well, here's why they were able to do it. Because the original book, Wizard of Oz, or The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, which is what I think the original book was called, was now in the public domain. So the movie Wizard of Oz was not at that time in the public domain, but the original book was. That meant that Disney could make their own movie based on the original book. But here's the catch. A lot of things, Rob, in the original movie were not in the book. For example, the biggest highlight, of course, is the ruby red slippers, right? In the book, the slippers, I believe, are silver. But the movie decided to make them ruby slippers. Well, that meant Disney in their movie, the Oz the Great and Powerful, they could not use ruby slippers. Also, Munchkins. In the movie, they made Munchkin Land this bright, vibrant kind of thing. Well, that's not the way it was described in the book. So that's only something for the movie. So when they made Oz the Great and Powerful, they could only make Munchkins with more earth tones and stuff like that, make it more plain like the book. So, or take, for example, this is one that Taylor would like. Take, for example, Pooh, Blood, and Honey. A lot of people are like, wait a minute, how can you make a Winnie the Pooh horror movie? Well, because the original book of Winnie the Pooh entered the public domain. And so they were allowed to use the characters and things that are described in that book, and they could use it as they want. Now, a lot of people, Rob, when Pooh, Blood, and Honey came out, they were like, well, how come it's just Pooh and Piglet? Like, why isn't Tigger there? Tigger would have been awesome. Well, the reason Tigger wasn't there was because Tigger wasn't in the original book, which was in the public domain. Tigger came later. And at the time, Tigger was not a part of the public domain. So even though, yes, there are, Mickey Mouse is in the public domain, and that means that people can do certain things with that Mickey Mouse from Steamboat Willie. There's still a lot of limitations that are there that you have to be very, very careful of. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. On average, it takes about 30 days for a person to break their New Year's resolution. So if saving money was on your 2024 list, your odds aren't looking that great. Luckily, I have a 100% guaranteed way to save you money this year. Just switch to Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for $15 a month. I've told you guys many times that after switching to Mint Mobile, I am spending less than a third on my cell bill than I used to with a major carrier. Say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. All Mint plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And don't worry about having to change phones or numbers. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. So guys, to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bills to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Anyway, Rob, you read about this story. Mickey Mouse, still, it's huge news, right? Like, this iconic symbol of Disney is now in the public domain. What can you see happening with this moving forward? And by the way, we've got a couple of other major characters in upcoming years. Superman. The original appearance of Superman is going to pass into the public domain in a few years. Batman is going to pass the public. Like, how do you see this working out?
I think it's going to be interesting to see what people do with, I mean, I could see somebody like South Park jumping on this, you know, and making some really profane, like Steamboat Willie story. I mean, something the tragic life of this mouse, something it'll be hilarious, but probably very unflattering. Or you know, I think these characters are going to be used in fascinating ways. Like you mentioned, Superman didn't fly. You know, he leapt tall buildings in a single bound. That's what he jumped. And it's going to be interesting to see characters like you could do a whole comic book series with Steamboat Willie looking the way it looks. And what I find interesting, John, and I don't know the answer to this, if you were to make if you were to write a novel about the Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse, would that novel then be copyrightable? Because it would be an original work. So
yes, anything so the character that you use is not copyrightable. Anything in your new book that is directly from the original Steamboat Willie is not copyrightable. But if you say that this Steamboat Willie has the power of laser eyes,
right,
then that becomes copyrightable to you. Mickey having laser eyes becomes copyrightable to you, but nothing from the original book.
And I'll be curious to see what that means moving forward. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how corporations deal with that. And I think that we're going to see a lot more of this happen because a lot of our vulnerable or venerable pop culture icons will eventually in our lifetime slip into the public domain. And it's happened in the past. Like, for instance, the original Night of the Living Dead, Romero's Night of the Living Dead, was a public domain film. That's why anybody could put it out if they wanted to. It was various reasons, but that's why Romero produced a remake of it. And it's very interesting to watch what happens with these properties. So I'm going to be curious to see what people do with Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse.
By the way, somebody's asking in the live chat, will Foundation and Lord of the Rings also become public domain? And the answer to that question is yes. I think I just read a thing that I think we're under 20 years away from the original Lord of the Rings novels passing into public domain. And then it's going to be really interesting to see what happens after that. Anyway, guys, what do you think about that? I mean, it's not the Mickey that we kind of recognize and know today, but still, like, the original Mickey Mouse story. Steamboat Willie is now in the public domain, and we got more stuff coming in the upcoming years. How do you feel about that? Jump on down and let us know what you guys think. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.